Hi, so today we are celebrating Damien and Matilda Relyea of the Relyea Insurance Group. Hi, guys. Welcome.
Hi.
How's it going? Happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank
So
you.
Thanks for having us.
our theme is celebrating family businesses, small family businesses particularly.
Mhm.
And you guys, I think, fit that pretty perfectly.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in family business?
Yeah. I mean, do you want to start with a little bit of our backstory?
Yeah. So my background was I was pursuing medicine at the same time. I sort of got into real estate, and that ended up being the route that I stayed on a little bit closer. So I sold real estate. I recruited real estate agents. But Damien's background was sort of varied, started in plumbing, did a couple of things, and we were introduced to business, I guess, by a connection in New York, which is where we're from, upstate New York. And those kind of business connections originally, actually not in insurance, they ended up bringing us to Florida.
Yeah.
And about 6 months after we moved to Florida, having spent some time working in the insurance realm, we decided to start our own insurance business together. I should say he convinced me to work in an insurance business with him because that's a little bit more what it was in the beginning. But since then, about a year and a half, coming up on 2 years, actually, I would say.
Yeah.
We've been in insurance business.
Well, congrats.
Yeah. Did either one of you guys have a family business in your background?
No. So both of our families are pretty job minded, I guess you would say. Your dad's an RN, your mom's a accountant. My mom is an English teacher. Yeah. So we don't have really any background as far as learning from someone as running a small family business. No.
My uncle had a pizza shop, has
Sure.
a pizza shop that I worked in a little bit, but
Mhm.
our lineage is not really entrepreneurship.
No.
Okay.
Well, congrats for stepping out and doing that,
Yeah.
because that is scary.
Yeah.
Any particular reactions from family? Were they cautionary about you when you decided to do this? Was there anything?
Not really. We've always just kind of been, I guess you would say, hard headed, pretty straightforward. Like we're gonna get this done no matter what. So maybe a little bit, but we also didn't really consult with them because none of them
Right.
own a business. So we weren't going to ask other people who didn't own businesses what us starting a business. But we talked to other business owners. But yeah, I mean, obviously parents always want the best for you, but we've always just kind of been that way. I've wanted to own a business since I was probably 15 or maybe even younger. Had small variations of my own businesses, I guess you could say, in high school that weren't technically on the books. But yeah, they're pretty supportive. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and to your point, we learned from business owners. We're really fortunate actually to learn from other business owners really early on. Like, don't take advice from people you wouldn't trade places with.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal because I love my parents. You love your parents, but we wouldn't trade places with them. In fact, a lot of what we do is for them. So you can't take advice from the same people you want to have. Even though we have so much respect, we learn so much from them.
Absolutely.
That's a writer downer right there.
Mhm.
Wow. Very good. Very good.
Thanks.
So what do you guys love most about working together?
Yeah, I think it's that phrase, just being able to work together. When we were working jobs, we weren't in the job market or I guess sphere, you could say, very long. We didn't work for other people very long, but we just hated being apart. And we were also building somebody else's business all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. We worked with great people. We still have great relationships with them. We just got sick of being apart all the time. It just didn't really make sense for us. So now we're together all the time. We're building something together for our family. And it's just so much more fun. It's so much more fulfilling. I think people, and us included, we guys kind of went through the motions. We were just showing up, collecting a paycheck, and then, that was it. And now we're actually building something. We're on an adventure.
Yeah. And I think that to your point as well about having more freedom and choice, like when Damien was working at an insurance agency, you have a ceiling.
Yeah.
And that's true of anything. Like when you're working for somebody, you have a ceiling because you have opposing interests. Their goal is to pay you as little as possible and get as much value from you, which is fine. That's their business. And your goal is to make as much money as possible. And in some people's case, do as little work as possible. So you really are kind of at odds. And he just saw the opportunity of like, I can do everything my employer is doing.
Mhm.
All he's doing is buying E&O insurance and buying me leads and making me come and sit in an office. And I can do those two things up by myself. And so he's like, he made it that simple. And I think that was key, honestly, at first for the insurance, just making it that simple and saying, well, I can do this stuff myself.
Yeah. I think one of my skills is explaining things like I'm explaining it to a fourth grader, because that's how I operate. I'm like a fourth grade level. So I can break things down pretty simple.
That is huge. Simplicity
it is big.
simplicity is an art. Have you ever heard of the physicist Richard Feynman?
Oh,
I don't know.
no.
He is well known. In fact, it's called the Feynman technique. And it's basically, if you can't take something and explain it to an 8-year-old, you don't understand it. Okay?
Huh.
So
That's interesting. Well,
There you go.
you're right up there with the brilliant physicist.
Yeah, I'm there.
I love it.
So is there any challenge that you've overcome together in your journey that other couples might benefit from hearing about?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. The first year in business, the first couple of years in business for most businesses is pretty tough. You're investing a lot. You're not necessarily always seeing the return that you want to see. In the beginning, it was very much separating work from not work, because we started off in our small apartment. It's a very small apartment. We worked from home. We did everything from home. Everything.
We had 2 desks in the living room.
Yeah,
Not a good idea. Not advised.
It was fun. Like, it was a grind. It was fun. It was the beginning. But it got to the point where it was like, man, this is not healthy.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting down relaxing, you can see your desk and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, I should be working. And it's like 9:00 at night and you should not be working because you've worked all day. So yeah, just one, learning how to work as a couple, but also learning how to separate that when it's not business. You're spending time going to dinner, not talking about, oh, hey, we need to buy this or we need to do that. Or, hey, what's the P&L look like? Just being able to spend time together and separate it.
And I mean, for most people in new to business, I mean, your number one problem is cash flow, like at the top of pretty much everyone's list. And so we were profitable our first year in business. I would say the business was making money, but we were not making money, which is the case for a lot of people because, even in the beginning when you're succeeding, we're like, oh yes, like this is great. Look at our profit margins. And then we're like, oh, but we have bills and expenses and all of that. And so it was cool to come out of, that phase. But I think that's kind of a big challenge in it. And it can cause a lot of stress, like financial stress can leak into your personal life. So yeah, I think we were blessed to have really good influences just in our personal life of how to have, a good marriage. And that's something that's a continual work in progress for everybody. But if you can't separate that, like the financial stress, it can like really, be hard on a marriage.
Yeah, I agree. I want to call out something you just said that kind of slipped on by, which was the idea of financial stress can leak into the relationship. I think it's a much stronger statement would be appropriate. I think what I've read is like that's one of the biggest problems that couples in business together face is that the financial stress stresses the relationship.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, number one cause of divorce, as far as I know, is financial stress. You guys can correct me because you have your facts straight a lot more than I do, I think. But but yeah, that financial piece is big, even for people who don't own a business. So when you own a business and it's like suddenly everything, the way you sort of say is like you have to hunt and kill and everything you're gonna eat. That's almost how it feels. That's kind of like a primal example, but like when you're deal by deal, commission by commission, that's
there's
kind of what it is.
There's no taking it easy today because you're literally hunting. If you don't kill, like you don't eat. Like you gotta put in work, make sure it happens.
Right. Well, and being together 24/7 is another stressor, right?
Yeah, I mean, we love it. Like we
understand that.
Yeah, we've done really good at it. But we also got to the point where I got an office space too.
We learn how to navigate it.
Yeah, because we'll distract each other. When we're together all the time, we won't get as much work done because we're just hanging out. We want to have fun. We want to talk. So we rent a small office space for me to go to during the day. Make sure we
so one of the ways you figured out to work more effectively business-wise was to create a little separate physical separation.
Yeah, 100%. When he's home, like today, he came home from the office early. And he says, "Oh, I'm coming home early." I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get anything done. And I know that. And that's, obviously I can work if I have something booked, it's easy because it's booked. I can be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we do our best work separately,
Mm.
and it's fun to be together all the time. But we did have to kind of find that, balance, especially because for us, some couples maybe can sit there and work together. For us, the majority of our work is done over the phone. So you can't really have two phone conversations going in the same
That's true.
small space, same room. So that does make it a little tough. So we did have to kind of work that out and get another space.
Okay. Yeah, we actually are in a similar position. Connie's desk is right there.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so if we both wanted to be on the same Zoom call, we would have problems with echo and,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So hence we sit next to each other
Mhm.
for our coaching. And
Or I move my computer into the dining room.
Yeah.
another end of the house. Yeah. Where
Yeah.
there's not a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've done that too.
Is there anything about working together in a family business that you know now that you wish you'd known when you started? I know you're kind of new in the game yet. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we said this before. I think if we knew, I don't say, I don't want to use the word hard. I don't really like that word hard. We
Okay.
work on changing our vocabulary and having the right words coming out.
Smart.
But I think if we had known certain things, we maybe wouldn't have started. So I actually think that phrase, ignorance is bliss, and that can come off wrong. We're very glad for the decisions we've made.
Yeah.
But I think if you know too much, it can actually be a detriment. So we talk to people a lot who maybe they want to start a business, or maybe they're doing what they're doing and they want to have something else or other things going. And it's like, the main thing that you just say a lot is just do it. Like,
Yeah,
stop
just
talking
do it.
about it. Just do it. Because if you can't research it all away, you
Yeah.
can't explore it all away. Like, one, the more you know could be detrimental to you.
Yeah.
You just potentially, and
for-
two,
yeah.
it's never going to happen.
Yeah. No.
You're never going to get all the answers, right?
No.
No.
And if you get them all, you might not want them all.
Yeah.
So you might as well just
Yeah.
go through it until you
Yeah.
have the result you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we'll have people who ask us, whether it's family, whether it's friends, because like we haven't done a lot yet, but we've been self-employed for almost 2 years now, fully, the both of us. Like, that's an accomplishment.
That is.
And they'll just like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm thinking about that. And I'm like, just do it. Like, there's nothing else I can say to you. Like, until you start going through the action, we're not going to be able to have a conversation because you just don't get it. And that's not to be offensive. That's not to be rude. But when you're talking to another business owner, the conversation is just, there's more depth, there's more conviction, there's more relatability. So you just have to start, or it's just never going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
we're
don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's like again, like that's actually a gift for the
Yeah.
first, little bit, because if we had known like some of the stressors or some of the things that we would have encountered,
Mhm.
not to say that we wouldn't have done it, but would we have been as excited or like as ambitious about it? Maybe not. Like,
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe we would have been like, oh, well, if we can foresee we're going to encounter this financial stress, maybe we shouldn't invest so much here.
Mhm.
That's not how it works.
Yeah.
You don't get to look down the road and feel like, oh, I should do this or I shouldn't do this. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And we're just really thankful we had the influences to help us set ourselves up right and make the right decisions. For us starting a business, we were fortunate to be debt free. That was an important thing for us, because when you're investing a lot of money, the lower your cost of living, the better. And we see people around us who sometimes they don't have those influences, or maybe they haven't listened to the same voices. And, we're just thankful that we did, because we set ourselves up in the beginning. Had we not done that,
Because if we had, 2 car payments, a truck payment, I think the average car payment in America right now, I just heard the other day, was like $600 to $700 a month. Like, that's insane. Like, that's a lot. And there's nothing wrong. Like, if you want to do that, we're not against it. We are for our family, because we know being debt free has created a lot of options for us. We don't owe anybody anything. So we can take that $700 and turn it into $2,500 by investing in our business. So yeah, again, I think I'm never one to, we're kind of going off on a rabbit trail.
and so I don't want to
it's-
get
No,
that really comes back to my previous, question about, well, what would you, is there something you tell other business owners? And that I think managing debt and keeping your debt as low as possible is a huge, point of wisdom, I'll say, that a lot of people just don't get. Our culture of payments, how much subscription model, everything's a subscription today.
Yeah. No, and I think one thing that I would add is just comparison is the thief of joy. And that's what we've heard. One thing we did during that, I completely cut out social media for a time period, because when you're looking at Instagram, when you're looking at it, like, are there some people on there that probably live that lifestyle? I think absolutely. There's probably
Yeah.
some, but most of them don't. I think it's too easy for people just to post what their life looks like. And you're like, man, why does it feel like we're hemorrhaging money? And there's other people who are out there living a lifestyle that we want to live. So just like doing what you need
Yeah.
to do, I think too many people think it's easy to start a business now, when it really is, like, it's one of the hardest things that you will do.
And I think you could probably make more sense of this in the psychological realm, but we talked recently about, like, there's this mindset of, like, just this life path that people follow almost by default of, like,
Yeah.
you go to school, come out, you get a job, you meet a guy, or if you meet somebody, you get a dog, you get a house, you have a baby. And, like, we see people and there's nothing wrong with that path at all. Like, but we see people who they don't actually make choices. They don't, by not making a choice, all of their life choices happen by default, and it happens to follow that same model.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And so, not that there's anything wrong with those things. I'm like, I'm just so glad that we took a step back and, like, evaluated some things and chose to make a couple different choices along the way. And we just see so many people who follow, and some of those people who even say they want to own a business, but they're still making all those this cascade of decisions
Yeah.
that's preventing that. Maybe there's some psychological explanation for that. I don't know, but it's interesting to see.
I'm not a psychologist, yes, but I would agree with you. There's a lot there that living by default.
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
addicted to
That-
it. You know,
that's
they're addicted
cultural.
to a new car every year, or they're addicted to, whatever that they're going out for dinner 3 or
Yeah.
4 times a week, and, the fancy alcohols and things like that.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
becomes an issue that they get locked in to where they're at, instead of pulling out like you guys did and saying, no, we don't need all that.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with those things, but once you've,
For a period of time.
Right,
you
for a
have to
period of
be in
time,
that-
yeah, and
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
get so radical, and maybe that's not,
That's
maybe that,
usually a bad
maybe that
term,
gets people
but-
a little upset. But I just heard it the other day. I don't remember what it was, but if you want to win, you better be radical at whatever you want to win. Because it goes back to sports, right? Like, if you want to win the Super Bowl, you're not going to win the Super Bowl by playing golf part-time. Like, during the season, they are obsessed and radical with winning. You have to do that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Like,
Yeah.
you have to cut it out for a period of time. And then once you've reached a certain point, you can probably bring those things slowly back in, or back in completely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's kind of an impatience at reaching the goal. I want to have this lifestyle, or this. I eventually want to achieve this, and the mountain that they've got to climb to get there seems to get bigger. So then they start trying to take shortcuts. Well, I'll just buy this now, and like you
Instant
said,
gratification.
we're in such an instant gratification world.
Yeah.
But interesting that you mentioned the kind of the cultural models of, like go to school, get a job, have a baby, all those things. I mean, yes, there's an assumption in the culture of what, or has been for a long time, of what a family looks like and what an ideal life looks like. And
And
I
what a
mean,
timeline.
when we were growing up, the idea was to have a pension. You wanted to work for the same company for 40 years and get a pension, and the company would fund that for, pension for your rest of your life, for your retirement. And that all went away.
Yeah.
There's, so many things that we've seen just go away.
Mhm.
And talking about family, as we discussed doing, family businesses for this podcast, we've also got to expand our model of what is a family.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the traditional, look of a family and has been, oftentimes the person that runs the business is the male. And, there was a cultural expectation of subservient females in, 50s and before. And all of that has changed. And so we got to embrace the variety that exists today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that, like, we talked about this a little bit when we met previously, that there's different models of a family business. For us, because we are, I guess you would say a first generation family business, we don't have the same dynamics that maybe a second and third generation business would have. For us, we just have us. So it does come down to that, like you said, there are some preconceived models, and some of those things are good, some of those things are not. Some work, some didn't. And it's just like, how do we have the best, highest functioning team? And that's something that we talk about, because there are times where we have to shift and be like, okay, if your plate is full and mine's not, then I need to take something off your plate.
Yeah.
And to be able to kind of make those shifts and acknowledge when, I have to acknowledge just by the virtue of the way our business runs. Damien does our sales. I focus on recruiting and building our team. So he does have more of that stress at this point in our business, just by virtue of where things are. And so, yeah, we definitely have to be kind of conscious of that dynamic and making sure things are moving fluidly, because it can be really easy for one person to be bogged down more than the other, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to happen anyway in any kind of relationship, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So do you network with any other family business owners?
Yeah,
Good question.
I would definitely say so.
Yeah.
We are big into, we decided pretty early on in our business, and every model is different, but our business is pipeline built upon leads. So we decided we wanted to buy higher quality leads and network. That was kind of our goal of how we wanted our business to be built. And we've done that pretty successfully. Now, there's still phone calls involved sometimes, but that network of modeling, we did join a couple of networking groups, and we've had to evaluate over time what works and what doesn't, but networking has been really successful for us.
Mhm.
And I would
Yes.
say that there are probably several family businesses
I'd say
among the
most of them,
people
if
that
not
we,
all of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
that we work with.
Any specific lessons or takeaways that you've gained from having that interaction with those other businesses?
And
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily as far as like owning a family business on that side. But one thing that we're really good at is getting around other people that are a lot better and more experienced than us. So, I mean, countless
lots of family
lessons.
business
The only
owners.
reason we have what we have and are going to continue to grow is because of the people we've surrounded ourselves with. Yeah. So that's
That's the other piece of advice you would give. That you say that should be the only piece of advice that we give to business people who want to own a business. Get around people who own a business.
Yeah.
Don't go to the bar at happy hour and say, hey, to your buddy at your corporate job, hey, you know what I'm thinking of doing? I think I want to start a business.
Yeah.
Like, and be like, oh, right now it's Friday night. This is not the right person to talk to. Get around those people. But I think in family business, I mean, from the ones that we've observed, and I think it's just important for the second generation to have to work for it and to earn their own like dignity and respect. And I'll be non-specific because I don't want to say anything, specific, but for the second generation to have to come into their own and maybe not just to, I don't know, fall into the family business. I guess just that's something that I think from the ones that we've seen, I think is helpful, because then you really can truly have a respect dynamic as opposed to maybe just tension or a feeling of subservience or something like that. So I think that that's something, should we, have in the future, even like our kids someday far down the road in business with us, far down the road, honey understands it. You get this. Then yeah, I think that would be like our main thing. We would want them to go through their own pain and their own growth, and let them suffer a little bit for themselves so that they respect themselves and so that we can have a mutual respect.
Yeah, that is actually one of the main pieces of advice that we see over and over, in various levels. We're again focusing more on smaller business, but through all levels, the family members that come in as a second or later generation, they need to earn their place. Nobody is served by somebody just being given a job because they're having with especially if they're unqualified. And the experience of going out and working in either the same or a different industry, but going out and getting that business experience, ideally in the same industry, working for a competitor, that brings out, they learn so much and they see what worked and what didn't work there. And then they can bring the best into the family if they choose to join. But then they're coming in, they're much better informed. They've got their eyes wide open instead of just, well, mom and dad have always taken care of me.
Yeah.
No,
I
And
think
that's
that's from experience.
yeah, when you
Yeah.
get your own teeth kicked in, it's
Yeah.
a little bit different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we talk about. We're really thankful that, we didn't have the fit. Even stepping away from the business structure of us kind of coming up and then getting into business for ourselves, we're really thankful that we didn't have that kind of backdoor of family financial support.
Yeah.
Like nobody bought either of us our first car. Like my parents paid for half of my associate's degree. So do the math. I was putting myself through college, and I don't complain about that at all. In fact, I'm like thankful for that, because I knew walking around that campus, it gives you like a little bit of a pride of ownership. I knew like I'm
Mhm.
paying my way.
Yes.
And same thing for you, you buying
Yeah.
vehicles and starting business and like all that stuff. And I don't want to make it sound like we, walked uphill both ways. We didn't. Like we had, we were really blessed with the families we have, but to the same point, like they didn't give us
No,
handout. And
I can
I'm so happy for that.
totally, yes. That is, we call that self-confidence. There is a distinction between confidence and self-confidence, that you were able to take those experiences and internalize them as self-confidence. Basically, I did that. I know I can do that. And that gives you a strength, a resilience that
Yeah, a lot of people don't have.
doesn't come otherwise.
Mm.
And so, yes, kudos to you.
You got to have skin in the game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put in your time, and you got to put in your effort. And when and what was it that we also the whole thing about if we stop somebody from having the experience where
Oh, yeah.
what is that?
A very wise person said to
Mhm.
me, the cruelest thing you can do is to prevent somebody from experiencing the consequences of their choices or of their
Mm.
actions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And
Yeah. We can point time and time again that we had to kind of go through things on our own.
Yeah.
And then we can look at somebody else who, maybe we are close to or we have a lot of love for, but they didn't have to go through that on their own. I think of our first year in business, and we went through some, financial challenges. Like it sounds better if you say cash flow problems. So that's what business owners should say, right? But no. We went through, financial challenges, and in that time, like you have a choice. You can look around for help. You can try to get somebody else to bail you out, or you can be like, you know what? I'm going to dig in and I'm going to get really gritty, and I'm going to do things that people don't really like to talk about and find a way to plug the gap and go make some extra cash. And nobody likes to talk about that because they have an ego. They don't want to talk about door dashing on a Friday night. Well, I'm a business owner. What do you mean? I'm at networking groups and I dress well. It doesn't matter if you're losing money. And it doesn't matter what the appearance is. So, we're really thankful that we went through some of those times where we got gritty, and coming out of that, like you said, that self-confidence so much higher, as opposed to being like, oh yeah, man, I'm so glad mom and dad come through with $500 for us. Like that doesn't, then you feel the opposite. You feel shameful. You feel guilty, because we know people who do have those situations where they're constantly going and constantly getting, that relief, and it's detrimental in the long run.
Yeah. Yes.
So 100%.
Well, I'm confident that if you have a second generation join your business, they're going to be in good hands and shepherded
Thank you.
well. So,
I think I'm to the extreme. I'm like, I don't want to buy our kids cars. They can pay for their own college. Like, what do they need that for? Like, and I think that's a little extreme. I think, maybe we'll soften up, but I'm like, no, if we have, if and when we have kids, it's like that whole thing of like, you're not rich. Mom and dad are rich. Like, like they make sure their kids know that, like, you don't have any, like, in a positive way, like very uplifting. But yeah, I think I'm a
But
little.
you're really seriously, you don't have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like we're joking, but we're not. You have anything.
No, it's true. It is true. And it's not only a good perspective for that child to have, but then that child can also communicate that to their friends, for example, that are thinking that because their parents have money that they can just, it's a free flowing thing. Well, and they're always asking them for stuff,
Yeah.
No, my parents have money. I don't have money. I'm a
Yeah.
kid.
I
I
don't
go
know
to school.
anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
man.
this has been wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. How can people, if they're looking for, so you guys want to give you a short commercial here. I know you're
Sure.
at,
Mhm.
I think you do various kinds of health insurance.
Yeah. So
And
anyone who is under 65, we primarily work with business owners. So we primarily work with small business owners who are under 65, and they're a great referral for us. We'd love to help them. Oftentimes, business owners don't know all of their options for health insurance. If you have a job, you're used to having corporate benefits and all of that. Business owners, especially small business owners, don't have the luxury of knowing how to navigate that. So that's our specialty, and they can find us at Relyea
oh, right. Perfect. And I'll make sure I put that in the show notes when we
Yeah.
get this posted online.
Is there any other words of wisdom that you'd like to
Close
give
us
us?
out with.
Yeah.
Just do it.
That's what he
That's
says.
Nike has the best slogan ever. I didn't appreciate it until we owned a business. Just do it. Stop talking about it. No one wants to hear it until you've done it. So just do it.
That's good. I'll leave it at that. That's perfect.
Perfect.
Right to the Well,
Love it.
thank you guys.
Thank you for
so
joining
much.
us.
Pleasure.
Yeah, it was
We
fun.
appreciate it.